The work is steadily progressing on the new administration building. Recently, the trees have been planted. The final layer of asphalt is being put in place for the parking. The parking on the side and at the back is being completed. On the interior, there is still some work going on the second, third floor, but even on the first floor, there's still work to be completed. The schedule for moving of the remainder of the civil servants who have to move in is constantly being shifted and is being challenged, but it is progressing. I think when we look at the fact that it was standing there for 8 years with nothing happening, and to see in a couple of months we've been able to take it from there to where it is now. There is a challenge for the Council of Ministers when we have, for instance, the press briefing. Not a challenge, but it is something you have to adjust to rather. And the meeting room for the Council of Ministers is not yet furnished and fully completed with all the things that are necessary for the Council of Ministers to adequately perform their duties and have their meetings. We are using a makeshift office that belongs to the Ministry of Justice. It is quite comfortable. Actually, it is more personal than if we take, for instance, this room where the Council of Ministers used to meet every week. The distance between the Council, the Prime Minister, and the rest of the ministers, now we sit around one table, and it is more personal. But yeah, it is a work in progress, and it brings its challenges with it. One of the challenges that the civil servants who still occupy this building may face is the fact that on Friday we hopefully will begin with preparing the top floor of this building for the Charlotte Brookson Academy. The Windward Roads was asked to provide assistance in moving about 6 to 8 partitions. 3 of them will be shifted to bring about a change in the size of the rooms. 3 or 4 of them will be removed completely to make one room, 2 rooms into one room. So hopefully the work will be completed in 1 or 2 days, and then Charlotte Brookson Academy can begin their transition in moving in. The challenge that they have is even greater because they have been using a facility for the last months at the USM where it came furnished. So they were using classrooms at the USM that had tables and chairs. They don't own 1 table, 1 desk as yet. So in the coming days, they will be embarking on a massive drive to obtain the necessary material to be able to furnish the classrooms. So the civil servants who will be working here would no longer have a Council of Ministers above them, but now the silence will be broken, and for some months they will have a number of students. But we are confident that it won't really become a nuisance to them.
And that brings me to my next question. You said that the move-in date for the new government administration building is constantly shifting. What is the new tentative move-in date, for government, for the next set of departments to occupy the building? And when is the date scheduled for CBA to relocate here?
As I said, the repairs, the alterations to the building will begin on Friday, and hopefully will be completed over the weekend itself. No later than probably Monday. By Monday, and I hate giving dates because then when Monday comes, somebody will say, oh, the Prime Minister said Monday. But within a week, everything will be finished at our end so that the Charlotte Brookson can occupy it. Like I said, their challenge is that they would need to get the furniture to be able to move in, because it makes no sense to move in and you have nowhere to sit. In terms of the move of the civil servants, as long as all the facilities are not in place for them to move as yet, you know, you cannot move.
Yeah.
Because once they move, they need to be able to have access to phones, to have access to the internet and whatnot. So all of it is not yet in place for everybody to be able to start that transition.
And how many rooms would be made available to them right now, and would they be occupying here free of charge, or would they be charged a rental fee, and if so, how much?
No, they won't be paying any rent. It is a solution the Minister of Education and myself arrived at in a meeting with them several weeks ago, when they came, you know, in desperation, as I think it was October 31st was their deadline to move out, and give and take maybe, you know, end of November, but we don't want to stretch it. So we have come up with the idea of allowing them to use here. It will be a gesture on the part of government to allow them to occupy it until an interim solution is found again towards a permanent solution. The next interim solution is we've requested GEBE to make available to them about 5,000 square meters of land right next to Genevieve the Weaver School, or rather next to the Senior Citizens Recreational Center in the Hope Estate. The former Kramer Construction property that was owned by the Rumley family, where the quarry was bought by GBE several years ago. It is 80 or 90,000 square meters of land. GB has done nothing with it up till now. They claim that they're moving their warehouse, or it's GB's land. Mm-hmm. So we have asked GB to allow the Charlotte Brookson to make use of 5,000 square meters until a permanent solution is found. And then temporary classrooms could be built there. One of the challenges that the Charlotte Brookson has is the fact that it is an experimental school. Mm. And as long as they have experimental status, they become just like those people who have a 9 months or 1 year contract. You go to the bank, and the bank would say, well, what happens after 1 year? So if they have an experimental status, what happens after, you know, judgment has to be passed on it? So, but we are confident that things will work out in the long run for them.
Has GB responded?
Thank you very much for your
GBE
questions,
is having a meeting on Saturday, a board meeting, and in that board meeting, the decision will be taken. But so far, they have been very positive. Board and management have indicated their willingness to cooperate.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Education Minister, Culture, Youth and Sports, the Honorable Severia Jacobs, and I believe you also have an opening statement you'd like to make, so I would invite you to address us at this time.
Good morning. Thank you, Cedric. Good morning to our Honorable Prime Minister and our colleagues here from the media, and to all those following this broadcast. This morning, I would like to, I'm sure many are aware that there is a situation going on at the Leonard Connor School. A press release was already issued last night, but I would like to still reiterate that all the ministries involved, which includes the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Ministry of ROMI, Ministry of VSA, as well as General Affairs, which is in charge of the fire department, are working together to alleviate this situation. Meetings have been ongoing since the 19th of October, when it was first noted and brought to my attention that there was a serious issue going on down there, where students and staff were experiencing problems with the air quality. First of all, investigations were done to ascertain where it was coming from. After several discussions in which GEBE, SOL were also involved, several meetings have been held, and testing has been taking place over a period of the last 6 days, ending on Monday. On Monday, there was another alarm that was sent up from the school, and that alarm was taken very, very seriously, and so school was suspended. Yesterday morning, I returned to the school to ascertain how it was, to check to see if it was in a better condition, and while the air quality was good, the teachers were in a sit-out or sit-in position to get information, which I was gladly able to give to them in terms of where we are as government in dealing with this situation. Of course, the teachers have been experiencing this for some time. They feel that it has become worse in the past months. GEBE has explained that they did do some different things, and some incinerator was being used, and that they would terminate the use of that. And so we are looking for the cooperation of GEBE with that is concerned. But as Kebe is such an area where many other industrial businesses exist, there is also the laundry, which is close by, the Sol gas company is close by. So testing will have to continue to take place at a higher level, as the fire department's equipment can only measure just 9 types of gases. So the one type of gas that had been determined that could be harmful was found in the Kebe area, also on the school's playgrounds and in classrooms where there are open windows. However, based on the measurements that have been measured over the past days, they were not to the extent where it's alarming for people, I would say, of normal health. Some of the things that the department has said, the fire department that is that if you are prone to having respiratory issues, asthma, or even, because we are talking about parts per million, what is acceptable for adults and not necessarily for children, it can have effect on anyone who has been having respiratory issues before, as well as small children. Based on the complaints that I've received, however, in a discussion with the teachers yesterday, some of them who've never had respiratory issues were suddenly having headaches, were suddenly having breathing issues, etc., and, you know, instantaneously as they got to class and to school, and or if they sat in their cars for too long outside the school after the car had been sitting there for a while. So I believe that these complaints are genuine, they are legitimate, and as a government we have to be proactive. So some of the solutions that had been brought forward to the teachers in yesterday morning's meeting were disseminated to the press. I don't seem to have them with me, but 2 of the main ones were that on the inspections that were had, there was noted that there was a fine dust which could be related to the soot or the smoke cloud that had been settling in the area at intervals when the wind changed. I must reiterate to the population, though, it's not a constant something. It is something that even when in my time teaching there, at times you would get a stench and it would go. What has been noted, however, is lately that it's been really hanging for a while, and GEBE did, as I stated before, say that they were doing some incineration that was not the norm, and that they have stopped that in the meantime. So they are doing their studies. All of the other industrial companies will have to also carry out their studies. We, of course, as government will have to commission an independent study to make sure, of course, in the interest of public health, because it's not just about the school, but the entire community. The seriousness of it, the teachers wanted to reiterate that, you know, of course, when you do your own research, long-term exposure to these type of gases can cause damage over the long term, and they don't know how long they've been inhaling what, which I can completely understand, and the concern of parents as well, with small children, you know, complaining as well. What I have asked is teachers and the school as well as parents, and we will be having a meeting this evening with the parents and teachers, with the different departments and the fire department, to kind of bring all the information clearly to those who are affected by the situation. What are some precautions that they can take, as well as, you know, what can be done in the meantime as we await the long-term solutions. 2 of the solutions that government was ready to take even before this meeting with the teachers and was working diligently on was having that cleaning done of the classrooms, a heavy-duty cleaning to get rid of all the loose dust that settled based on these dark smoky clouds that would settle every now and again. The ladies were poised to start at 12, and so they did that yesterday based on some of the demands that were made, we have extended the cleaning into today to be able to cover all the nooks and crannies, all of the fans, etc. And so the school was closed today to be able to allow the cleaning to take place. Also, we are looking into getting protective masks that in the case that there is a cloud which could pose any type of danger, that the staff, students, and all who are in the area of on the school's premises would be able to at least not inhale as much of it, because as was said before, it doesn't linger the entire day, it comes and it goes, while we seek the greater solution, which would be, since the measurements that were taken in the school showed that there was a 0%, 0 parts per million found within the classrooms that had air conditioning. We see that as the best solution for the long term. However, the Leonard Connor School, as well as all the public schools, are being currently the process for that critical upgrade of electrical cabling and what else do they have? No, all of the cabling or plumbing is being prepared for tender. So seeing the urgency of this situation, I have asked the Department of Vromi New Works to pull out the Leonard Connor School from that complete bid and to get that done as soon as possible. I will hear from them hopefully by the end of the week how soon that can be done. I can state that the teachers have given us a few weeks to do that, and we're hoping to be able to comply, but I'm hoping that once we get started that they will be understanding, seeing as we have, or we will be for tomorrow morning, providing the interim measures in case of any other further issues with it, even though GEBE has ascertained that that would not be the case from their source. Vromi inspectors, of course, will have to continue to check with all of those businesses that have the hindrance permit to make sure that they are living up to their obligations, and of course making sure that also GB lives up to its obligations. So where that is concerned, I must reiterate again, as I did with the teachers and staff yesterday at the school, as well as a few parents who were there, that this definitely has the priority of government. We do not want to endanger our young people or the educators as they are proceeding to educate our youth. So they will have missed a couple of days this week, but hopefully as of tomorrow morning, we can get back on the ball and deal with the situation as soon as possible, of course, given our situation that we have currently. In better news, I must say that I just left from the Korean Study Fair, which is being held at Bel Air, and that was indeed a pleasure for me to open this morning. All the pre-exam and exam classes will be going through to visit the different options for study. I was also made aware that yesterday a special workshop was conducted for parents on the financing of their children's studies, and that the Division of Study Financing was there, as well as Nagico Insurances, Windward Island Bank, and other entities giving advice to parents on the best possible ways to finance and maintain their students while they are studying, including the insurance and the lot. So information for parents is a new session over the past years, and that seemed to have received quite some positive feedback. Today the schools are visiting, and I encourage all who are interested to pass by and see our options. We have businesses there. There are also education facilities on island as well as abroad who are visiting, some with whom we have MOUs, some with whom we hope to have MOUs in the future, but several options do exist for our students. So I expect them to make the best use in preparation for their futures where work and study is concerned. Also, next week, as we are in the month of November, I must reiterate to the public that St. Martin's Day is falling on 11th November as usual, and whilst the French side is charged with the celebrations, that I encourage all St. Martiners to fly their flags during this month, to take part in the various activities. There are several organizations having pre-St. Martin Day activities, and by next week I should be able to reiterate exactly which we are also collaborating with, etc. And the second Sports Awards will be held on the 13th. That's also very close to St. Martin Day, and that will be held at the Princess Porte de Plaisance. It will be beginning at 4:30 and hopefully ending at 7, highlighting people and organizations who have had an impact on sports on our island. The aim is to place a spotlight firmly on those individuals and associations who have worked tirelessly to make sports possible throughout the years in our communities. Several complaints, of course, have been lodged, and I'm not one to shy away from those, about why this person has been nominated and why this one not, and the sports department and the sports department. I would just like to clarify that it is not the sports department that chooses, but we give the option to the different organization to nominate persons in all the different areas. And so then we look at who gets the most nominations, and a committee then, based on that, if there are no clear top three, then the committee takes a decision on the top three, but that is based on the nominations that come directly from the sports organizations. So if you are an athlete and you feel you have been contributing highly to your sport and to St. Martin, then you need to really contact your organization to make sure that they're aware that you are out there doing such a great job, because it is our aim to highlight our top performers. And if we have missed anyone in this because you have not been put forward by the organization, we look forward to hearing from you. You can contact the Department of Sports directly. That is at 542-2056, and ask for the Sports Department, Janelle Richardson or Lizanne Charles. So I look forward to us hearing who the winners are, the nominees. The top three will then, of course, be the ones highlighted on that evening. So even if they don't win, the top three will be highlighted, and footage will be shown of their endeavors, etc. That is our goal and aim in any case, and I look forward to that taking place on November 13th. So I await any further questions from the media. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Jacobs, for your presentation. I now open the second round of questions. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Cedric. Minister Jacobs, I'll start with you. Prime Minister, I'll come back to you after. Since the situation started at Lionel's Corner School, I have called CPS to inquire what's their role, and I was kind of shocked that they were not informed. They haven't had any information up to day before yesterday as to the Lionel Corner School and what is taking place there. At this point in time, is CPS fully involved? Because this is a health-related issue. My other question into that same topic, the fire department already indicated that they only have equipment to test a certain amount of gases in the air. Are we going to get an in-depth investigation on how soon this can be rectified, other than putting some air conditions in a classroom like was done in Curacao?
Okay, the Inspectorate of VSR, Public Health, Social Development and Labor, are the ones that went with the other inspectors. So several inspectors went. The inspector does not directly fall under CPS. So the inspectors were the ones that met with the other inspectors. They went to test the to see, and they were the ones that made the recommendations about the dust, etc., on the windowsills. They were there from October 19th, and they have been taking part in the meetings with the other inspection departments of ROMI, Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, and the Fire Department. In the last meeting held yesterday, I was updated. I didn't receive the actual minutes yet, but based on the update that I got from my ministry, they did indicate that it would move over to CPS now. So, seeing that it was being looked at now as a more of a public health situation, which falls under CPS. So CPS will become involved. Well, as of yesterday, they would have been informed and then get involved. So that's why you wouldn't have been able to get information from them. But of course, now they will be involved. Up until yesterday, we were having meetings on basically the same level, which are the inspectorates from the various ministries. In terms of the gases that were being tested for, as I indicated from the lectern, yes, the fire department has limited because they test for acute situations. And so the one gas they found is the one acute situation. Of course, there could be more, which their machines are not equipped to handle. And one of the recommendations that we got out of these meetings is that an in-depth study, of course, be done, which I mentioned that GEBE is commissioning their own, and we are also commissioning a study to be done. So we are doing the research in terms of who will be doing that study, and of course, the process to create the payment arrangement to have that done is being processed, so I can't give you an exact time and date at this time. But I will update you, or maybe the Ministry of CPS will update you in the meantime after they have done their research as well as to which companies can be used to carry out the further investigation. I'm hoping with that I have answered the question, but it is definitely on the list of to-do.
All right. Based on me doing my own research, I was a little bit shocked to find out that GEBE, that has the biggest power plant in there, and Sol, they are not in possession of a hindrance permit. Does that concern you? Because had they had a hindrance permit, they would have known exactly what they could do and what they could not do.
Well, that also just recently came to my
From my blog.
attention in my discussion with the Minister of Romi, and he told me that they are taking the necessary steps from their side to put those steps in place, that everyone who has that type or every type of business that is a hindrance would have the necessary permits or put in the request and get the regulations as well. So they are also from their side. That's why I say each ministry is doing what they have to do at this time to get the regulations in place to be able to hold them accountable.
Prime Minister, did you check with Vromi to find out about the results that they have gotten when testing the Captain Oliver's marina area, the water, the type of pollution, the type of liquids, all kinds of heavy liquids, because of course you know the restaurant.
No, I have no information from Romy on that.
Would you check that?
Not a bad idea.
Thanks.
Judy Fitzpatrick, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just have so far one item, and it's regarding this whole issue of the health issue in the K-Bay area. I mean, a lot of focus right now is on the school and the teachers, and we've heard some horror stories about nosebleeds, teachers fainting, and so forth. What about the residents in the area? I mean, temporary measures are being put in place right now for the school, but there are people who live there permanently, day and night. What about them?
Okay, that was also something that was discussed within the committee, and GEBE is doing a walkthrough of the community to ascertain if any complaints, especially in the past couple of months, because as I said before, it seems as if there have been more complaints, well, at least from the school in the past, since October 19th anyway. I have asked them at the school to create a survey for the teachers as well as parents to ascertain how long they've been experiencing, so that we have the documentation to back up the claims that we are making. Of course, especially since the measurements do not add up to the symptoms that they are feeling. So we need the proof. We have asked, from my ministry, I can say that the other institutions in the area were asked whether they were experiencing problems, which is the Lally Center next door and the play school that is further down the street, and they did not ascertain that they had any issues. So especially since they are more indoors, and the most alarming, it wasn't still at the alarm level, but the highest levels were measured on the outside, and particularly over the playground, which is an enclosed area. So if the cloud came over, it hung in that area, I guess, longer than it would other places, is why we are experiencing at the schools more than the others in the community. But a walkthrough is being done within the community, and all within the community are asked to, if they are experiencing similar situations, to report. GEBE is doing theirs walkthrough because they have not received any excessive complaints or received any complaints, and several persons who I have spoken to who live in the area say that they did not experience it. I guess it would depend on what time of the day you are at home, and if people are mostly indoors, it was a very low measurement inside classrooms, even with the windows open. Based on the information we got, 2.0 parts per million is when it would become alarming, and on the playground, the highest levels that were measured were 0.7, and in the classrooms with windows open was 0.2. So not necessarily cause for alarm, and I think the highest, based on what I saw from the fire department, was close to GEBE. The building of GEBE itself had the highest level, but it still did not reach a little bit over the 1, but it did not reach to 2. So we personally at Education, Culture, Youth and Sport Inspectorate are not responsible for complaints from the community, but based on the discussions we had between VSA, VROMI, and Education and Fire Department, of course it is important that they ascertain, what the community is feeling as well. But it appears based on preliminary that there have not been excessive reports from the community so far.
Thus far.
But with CPS getting involved, that is being looked at as well, and that's why GEB, some of the recommendations are in terms of what GEB should do and should not do in order to limit the emissions that are staying that low, so heavy that they stay so low and are not blowing out to sea as usual.
You're stressing a lot on the fact that the recordings were not at an alarming level. But I mean, is tests being conducted on a regular, everyday basis, consistently throughout the day?
From when it was reported up until Monday, it has been tested practically every day.
Okay.
So, especially in the past 6 days. So on the 19th was tested. On the 20th, I personally went down there and met with the fire department, and they were testing again throughout KB. And after the second meeting that they had with the committee, they pinpointed that they would have 5 particular areas within the KB area that they were testing at varying times of the day to test the different measurements, and their results after 6 consecutive days of doing so, which ended on Monday, which is 2 days ago, were that they were not above the 2.0 and in fact mostly way below the 1. So this is just, again, does not conclude that there are none. This just concludes that the ones they are testing for were not above the alarming levels, and therefore the committee, or I can't call them a committee, but the group of inspectors that met with the fire department as well as all of us are concerned, and we want to bring in further investigators to take the measurement to the next level.
Thanks for that explanation. The GB report back to authorities on their walkthrough on what they're doing? I mean, because there must be some level of supervision, because I can do a walkthrough and then do nothing after.
This situation has the attention of the entire government. GEBE is a government-owned company with which we are having a very good relationship at this time. I'm in constant contact with them, and we will definitely be checking on a regular basis to find out what their findings are. But as I stated before, GEBE carrying out theirs is still separate to government carrying out an independent study. So both will have to be done, and thereafter the steps that have to be taken will be taken.